Welcome to SR Studios. My name is Maria Buffalino, and tonight we have another episode of Meet the Pastor. Tonight we have Pastor Leslie with us. Hi, Pastor Leslie.
What up?
Welcome to the set.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of
It's a pretty
course.
impressive set.
Is it? You like it? Do you like our mugs? Can you reach them?
Uh, it's an unnatural length for when I would naturally, I would typically have my mug. Usually I would hold it like this.
Okay. You can hold it.
Thank you.
People might think that these are props, but there's actually a drink in here. So
I know,
let's
just to
take a
prove it.
sip before we start.
They just don't happen to know what's in the
Ooh,
mug.
I know, but it's a little hard with the microphone.
Yeah. But it's nice.
So, how do you feel being in the hot seat tonight?
It's been a long day and I am almost to the point where I don't know what's coming. And yeah,
In the
I
interview or
in the interview. Well, actually, yes, that's actually true of all of life. I don't know what's coming tomorrow or next week,
ever
ever.
or like
Yeah,
in the next minute?
in the next 30 minutes. Yeah, any of that. But yeah, I think I'm just curious as to where this conversation will lead. I think you've had Pastor Jerry before,
Yes.
which
Did you watch the episode?
do you want me to answer
Yes,
honestly?
please.
I did not.
Wow.
It's not anything against Jerry or you. It just is, you know, it's in my to watch playlist.
Okay, so you have it in liked, you've shared it. You've done all the things, but you just haven't sat and watched it. Okay, that's all right. See, meanwhile, it's going in like my time capsule for life. Like all the mentoring I've ever like had from him, it's like it was encapsulated in that.
Were you smiling the whole time?
I was. It's Pastor
Yeah,
Jerry, but
yeah.
I'm really happy to sit with you as well. You're a big part
Oh,
of my life as well. So
that's so kind of you.
I guess the feeling's not mutual.
No, no, I didn't mean it that way. I
I've
just,
watched your kids. I mean,
I
what else?
know, I know. The feeling is mutual. That's probably why I don't feel pressure
Mm,
or you call it the hot seat. I don't think I feel pressure
no, I know.
because
I'm just trying to make you nervous.
it's just, yeah, just spending time. Actually, I wanted the questions ahead of time and you refused to give them to
Well,
me.
everyone asks for the questions ahead of time, but like I kind of go by what we're going to talk about. So sometimes, like getting the questions ahead of time, you get in your
So I
head.
could throw you off completely off
Yeah, you
track.
have to
Depends
forget
on
the
if I might
cameras are
answer.
here. You just gonna, yeah, I just listen and I think about what I might want to ask.
Hmm. So yeah, I don't feel nervous.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
It's just a chat between ladies.
it's just a chat. It's just a little hangout.
Can I get down to my questions?
Sure, go ahead.
So, Pastor Leslie, let's start with your upbringing.
Uh-huh.
Clearly, you're not from New York.
I'm not from New York. Clearly, what does that mean? Is there certain indicators to show if
Well,
someone's
just
from New
by the
York?
way you don't get back to text messages on time,
We're
things
gonna
like
go
that.
there.
We're going to go
We're
there.
gonna go there. The thing is that I've responded to you in my head, and it just has not been relayed through the typing on
I
the.
literally have to put a siren. So, you know, it's like major.
Yeah, but it's not anything personal. I can show you the long list of unread and unresponded to text messages
Yeah.
in
I
my
think it's the
phone.
slower pace of life back home, maybe. Is it or no?
No, no, I think it's just I don't know how to respond in the moment, or I want to more thoughtfully respond in the moment, or I am not able to continue like a conversation,
Yeah.
and so I don't engage because I want to. It's actually out of respect for the other person.
Well, now that I know like where your head's at, I kind of feel less offended.
I told you, don't be
I might have
offended.
to take a page from your book because I feel like I'm too responsive. And we were just talking before, like I'm thinking of my word of the year being more like being present,
Mhm.
slowing down,
Mhm.
letting my yes be yes, no be no, and not
Mhm.
always being so available.
Mhm.
So you're inspiring me already.
But honestly, I want to be more responsive.
So we'll meet in the middle in 2025. How's that?
We'll meet in the middle. I like that. So instead of a week, it will be 3 days.
Okay. 3 days is a good number.
2025, new chapter in my text messaging life. I think I only have maybe 10 right now.
No, but I appreciate that because it's like even now, like you want to be more present in the conversation. It's different through text message. Like the world has changed so much
Mhm.
that I feel like we're the most connected we ever been, but also like the most disconnected because of it. So I know that when I do have your ear, you're very intentional about like listening and and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So back to your upbringing. Tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up,
Mhm.
all the things.
All the things.
All the things. I
And
wanna hear
feel free
everything.
to interject if you want more information on any of it.
I got you.
But you are right, I didn't grow up in Virginia. I grew
Wait.
gosh, I did grow up in Virginia. I didn't grow up in New York. Cut.
No, we're gonna roll this.
Yeah, I did grow up in Virginia, in Williamsburg, Virginia. If you've ever heard anything about all the colonial historical places, I was like right in the middle of all of that. We would go to the grocery store and there's like colonial people walking around because that's like their work costume, at
Is
the
it like visiting the Amish in Pennsylvania type thing?
yeah, yeah. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
it's all but it's not like visiting the Amish. That's their genuine life. I'm talking about the colonial people are dressing up to go to work to, to impersonate
Nothing
George
against nothing
Washington.
against the Amish. I find them very fascinating.
I do too. I truly respect them. No,
Yes.
Colonial Williamsburg, it's like going to Old Bethpage.
Okay.
That would be a more
A better
accurate
analogy.
analogy, yes.
Yeah.
So that's where I grew up in Williamsburg, went to school like 30 minutes away because my parents truly believed in like Christian education. So so my mom taught at this school and she drove my sister and I to school for that. But yeah, in Virginia, in Williamsburg, I do have an older sister. Her name's Brooke. Shout out, Brooke. She'll probably not watch this, but
Well, I'll send it to her. Give me her number. Does she not respond either?
she's not that great either. She's not that great either. Yeah. So my older sister, and then my parents. Yeah, that was all about. That was my little family, and my extended family lived in like the western part of the state. So grew up really um, physically distant from grandma, grandpa, grandparents, aunts, cousins, uncles, everybody. And yeah, we would go for holidays and special events. And then my grandparents would come and visit for other things as well. But it wasn't the same as being in a 5-minute drive, as my other cousins. So they were closer with each other and closer with the aunts and uncles and all of that. But yeah, I had a great childhood.
So you've been like part of ministry since you were a kid. Like what are some of the things that you were a part of?
Yeah, so my parents very involved with the church, and they switched churches when I was, I think, in kindergarten. And
What denomination exactly?
I grew up in the first one I was born into was like a Baptist church, um, very conservative Baptist church. And then they moved. I don't know what was the reason why actually, why we switched churches, but yeah, like around kindergarten, we switched to a church plant, so a church that's like meeting in a school,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get 15 people, and that's where we started into it. And we were my we I grew that's the church I would really say I grew up in. Um, and that was more just a non-denominational church, probably on the conservative side as well. But yeah, I was involved in ministry. So because you're in a church plant, you there's not that many people, at least at the start, or that many people who because people are just coming new and all of that. So really was involved in doing all kinds of ministry, which I think is helpful for me today because there's not anything that I think, oh, I've never done that before. Even
Yeah.
though I did it when I was 10, 12, I was teaching youth group when I was in youth group, so it
Oh
was like,
wow.
so it's yeah, but because there was no one else to do it.
Yeah.
And taught through VBS and I did the dramas at
Did
the
you
church. Yeah,
really?
I did drama. The one I always wish that I was a part of and never should have been a part of was the worship team.
That's the only ministry I haven't done. And I
I
was
still
talking to
wish I
Josh
could, yeah.
Martinez the other day. He's like, "Who told you you can't sing?" I'm like, "Trust me. I love to sing, but I'm not good at it."
I would put myself in that same category.
Yeah.
I love to sing. I
All right.
wish I
If the
could
worship
sing.
team needs us, hey, maybe we could be
We
the
we
backup.
could sing a duet right now.
I don't,
This could
I
be
don't
our
want to put people
audition.
through that.
Yeah, so my parents were very much involved in ministry. My dad actually led the worship ministry at one point. He was and my mom played piano, like, they're very musical.
Oh,
Not me,
wow.
not me. Yeah, so very much involved in ministry in that way.
So, how did you like this personal relationship with Jesus since you're grown up in a family like this? Did you just believe, or was there a moment where you surrendered to his lordship, or
Mhm.
how does that work when you're like born and raised in a Christian home?
Yeah, which that is actually what happens is that you assume you're Christ there's it's just a assumption that this is what you believe,
Mhm.
and which is a blessing and a curse, I think, at the same time, because the blessing of that surrounded me growing up and the faith and all of that, which I wouldn't trade that for the world. But I believe the harder part comes because it's just assumed you don't have to go through this. You don't go through the surrendering, or you're not met with that surrendering part. Maybe if I didn't grow up with that insulation type of thing, because I was in church, I was in Christian school, my parents,
So, was there ever a moment you like questions or
yeah, so I mean, think of it more so like mile markers along the way of my spiritual journey or my faith journey, and that um like classic 5 years old reading family devotions at night, and for whatever reason we were reading it's a picture story. I still remember it vividly. It's a picture storybook Bible, and we were in Revelation.
okay?
I have no idea why that is family devotions at, like, 8 o'clock at night, but that's what we were reading, and it's, like, the seven-headed dragon and all of this stuff, and, like, talking about where you go
I mean,
if
as a kid, I guess that's intriguing
it's intriguing, but
and
it's
scary.
terrifying. It's terrifying as well, and so, yeah, I went to bed, and I couldn't sleep, obviously, and I get up, and I tell my mom, like, I don't wanna go there,
Yeah.
and, so very simple childlike faith of I would say, like, that's my first handhold or, like, mile marker, and, um and then throughout elementary school and middle school and high school, really had a desire to follow Jesus and um, whether my personality or conviction of the spirit, like really sensitive to right and wrong and all those types of things. Where growing up and reading the Bible, reading scripture, wanting to learn, wanting to grow. And then my crisis of faith came in freshman year of college, which it's very. I have when talking to other people, it's typical. It's somewhat typical because it's the first time where you're outside of that
In that
insulated,
bubble.
yeah, in the bubble of my home, the bubble of school, everywhere I was at, everybody believed like me to an extent, like believed like me, and there was no why should
Everyone was a
yeah, yeah,
Christian.
why shouldn't I go along with this?
Yeah.
So, in a Christian college in Ohio, and really was met with, why do I believe this? Like, who would believe this?
So what were your steps from there to kind of go on that journey?
Yeah, I would say those steps, if I was to point back to where do I really believe that I surrendered my life to Jesus, it was a freshman year in college,
Mm.
which is ironic given my childhood. You would think that that's wouldn't be the case. But yeah, they're like in the middle of freshman year of college, wanting in a Christian school, wanting to throw the whole thing away. Like, this is
So what
bogus.
led you to that point though to surrender your life?
Uh Because well, yeah, so I wanted to throw it all away because I thought this has just been fed to me for 18 years of my life,
Right.
and m I only believe this because everybody told me to believe this. And I got to the point though, because it was so much a part of my life, thinking like, I can't just honestly throw this away without doing my due diligence.
Okay.
So, very pivotal, 2 books, very pivotal. Because I thought, let me give it a chance. Let me give it a chance, but let me do it by my own, interest and my own discovery. Lee Strobel's book, The Case
I
for
was gonna
Christ.
say that's
Case
a
for
yeah.
Christ. Because for whatever reason, I had experienced all these other components of the Christian life without tackling maybe the intellectual side because it was just the I didn't have to before. I didn't have to go through the intellectual exercises of this is why I believe what I believe.
Mm.
And I think that was probably why it was instrumental.
Did you watch the movie?
There's a movie?
Yeah.
The Case for Christ?
I mean, come on.
Not when I was 18 in college, I
All right,
bet
I'll
you.
text you. You'll respond. You'll come
It
over.
has to have been it must have been a later produced movie because I think it came
Yeah,
out.
it probably is more recent, but it was really good.
I'll have to read it, watch it. But yeah, so that book, Leaf Strobel, that book, and then reading reading Josephus. I know. Yeah. For me, I just needed to see this. I needed to know that Jesus was a real here's somebody else outside of biblical literature or the biblical base, who's talking about this man. And I was intrigued by that. So it
Mm.
was like that as well as and even up and all sprinkled throughout that, it was I'm just reading scripture. Like I'm not reading it to study it. I'm not reading anything, but I was like, I'm gonna just read this because it's what my heart needs right now. And yeah, just the combination of all of that. And then it was February of my freshman year of college where I had everything that I could have done intellectually, emotionally, what's the other
I
the
don't know, all
lees?
the
All the
Elise.
lees, all the lees. I did everything, and it came to the point where and I think it happens to happen for every person that you can be led up to a point, everything humanly possible, and then it still takes
Level of faith and
a level
trust.
of faith and trust. And so I I said, well, if I'm going to if this is what I'm going to commit my life to, this is what it is, and I'm never looking back. And,
Did you have community around you? Anybody helping you or a mentor
I
around
mean,
that time?
I was in a college dorm, so no, there wasn't
You're
any.
all right. I don't know.
I think I was too embarrassed to talk about it with anybody. Here I am, like a Christian school. You
Interesting.
say anything like
Shouldn't it be though, like
shouldn't have been the opposite. Yeah,
yeah.
I think it was just a fear. I think it's a fear of then the perception from that. Like oh gosh, do you hear what do you know what she's talking about? Like she doesn't even believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
Which wasn't the case. It was just an honest pursuit of him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would genuinely say I have I have not looked back.
So it's interesting because I feel like everyone has to go on this pursuit to find truth in their life. I'm wondering now, like, what were you studying in college? Like, what did you want to be? Did you have plans to be a pastor? Were you looking to do something else? Like, what
Well,
was
given
going
my
through
conservative Christian upbringing, pastor was not on the
on the
list
deck? Right,
ever,
right.
ever on the list. So no. I had so I love sports. I love sports, playing them as well as watching them. I want all my kids to play sports. I love sports. And
Particular sport?
I love basketball. Well, I love to play basketball. Don't ask me to play now.
How tall are you?
How tall am I? I feel like that's very personal.
What do you mean?
You're gonna ask me
I
how
was
much
gonna
I
do a
weigh now? You're
one-on-one
gonna
with you. I
ask
was
me
gonna
how
do a
much I weigh
one-on-one with
now?
you.
I am
I'm pretty good at my
are you good
3-point
at
shots.
basketball?
I don't know. I've done.
Good you.
What's that game? Horse.
You don't even know the name. Gosh.
I'm gonna challenge you to
She's
a
not
game
an
of
athlete.
horse.
Look at me, she's not an athlete.
Wait, I played soccer
Okay,
for a period of time.
when she was 3.
Wow, past early 3.
No, I like
Women supporting women,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay?
yeah. I I like basketball, but I don't like to play it anymore,
Okay.
really. I mean, every now and then. I love to watch baseball. I love to watch football.
Mhm.
Soccer's fun. Cricket and rugby, I like those now too. And yeah, probably golf. I mean, you could tennis,
So what were
all
you
of
gonna
them.
do? Something in sports? Or what were you
Yeah,
thinking?
so taking my love of sports as well as ministry, I really was going to pursue camp ministry. I had been involved in camps throughout high school and yeah, through high school, being camp like a camp counselor. And I thought, this is fun. Like it's fun. I get to do ministry, kids, youth, outdoors, sports, all of that. So yeah, I was entering into college with that ministry mindset, but thinking so I majored my first major was, organizational communication
Interesting.
because I thought I need to know how to, like, you know,
Communicate and
communicate and run, and it was like, yeah, it's slightly close to business and all of that, so that was my intention freshman year was to go in with that, and after, um, not being able to mi succeed
yeah.
in that area, and really not having a passion. Like, after taking classes, you're
You're
like,
like, "What is this?"
"Yeah," I said, "This is not what I'm
Although
pa."
classes in real life is never the
It's very
same.
true, but I didn't find that to be it didn't, like, quicken my heart. You're like, I didn't get excited about it in all the classes, and so I switched. Maybe it was sophomore year, I switched to Christian education with an
Hmm.
emphasis in sports, which I should have gone in
So
which I should have gone in with that, you know?
yeah.
But, yeah, that's what I graduated with.
So we know God had other plans, clearly. So now you're in New York, you're a
Yeah,
pastor. How did you get here?
that's a big jump.
Yeah, well,
There's a lot that happens between freshman year of college and now. So I graduated Christian ed. I graduated slightly like a semester early because I had gone through this is how much I was committed to camp ministry. Between my junior and my senior year that summer, I I did ministry work as an intern. Like I paid college credits to go and work and be a program director at a camp in Maine. So
hmm,
I lived in Maine for yeah, for a few months doing that. But so because of that, I got to graduate early from with my undergrad and I worked out at the gym at the same time that the director of career services at college. This is my senior year, and he's like, I'm gonna. Good thing he's not watching, but he's like 60. I thought he was like 60, 70. Was probably like 40, but to
wow.
me, he was like 60 or
I hope
70.
no one thinks that
Yeah,
of us right now,
I hope
'cause
that's not
yeah.
that's not our opinion. The opinion of us. But,
Because we're the same age,
yeah,
literally.
yeah. He, we became because no one in college is awake at 6 o'clock in the morning at the gym except for me and him and, like, a few other people randomly. And we just became, friendly with each other in conversations, and he let me know of an opportunity that like, an immediate job opportunity to be a nanny for a family on Long Island. Um, yeah, that was he's like, they've had graduates from our school before, they really like us, they're not Christian, but they like our school. They like having morally
So
convicted,
crazy.
like,
Yeah.
moral people to come and be the nanny at their house for their kids. So, here's an opportunity, you're gonna graduate early come December, so you could take this immediate job opening for however long you want it. It's like there's no time commitment on it. I thought it was the worst idea ever. I was like, "I do not want to do this." And, like, any other like, why do I wanna go to New York? One.
I mean, why not?
Well, oh, I didn't wanna go to New York away from everybody that I knew and loved, and so
You love it now, right?
you're jumping ahead. Will you calm down?
I'm a born and raised New Yorker, so I gotta get to the bottom of this.
Obviously. Um, yeah, so I thought it was a bad idea, but then my parents thought it was a good idea, and I thought, "Okay, I trust my parents." So I flew out for a weekend to here. I, like, lived with the family for a weekend and kinda got a taste of what it was. Still really wasn't too keen on it, and, but still, like, pieces fell into place, and I thought, "Well, I need a job. What am I gonna do? Go back and home and live with my family and
Yeah.
I have nothing lined up in Virginia." So, um, yeah, I took the job and was a nanny for 5 kids in Oyster Bay Cove there, for a year. And, that's a whole nother podcast about life as a nanny. But,
Wasn't your husband a nanny too?
he was an au pair,
No pair.
which is just the sophisticated international way of saying nanny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But because I didn't come from another country, I wasn't an au pair, I was a nanny. I
Interesting.
don't know if that's the really the requirement. I don't know if
I
that's the
don't know how it
actual
works.
stipulations
It's
between the 2.
probably.
Yeah, maybe. But, so in the course of while I was a nanny, I was looking this is how old I am. I was looking for a church.
First off,
No, please, let me hear this out. Hear me out.
no, but you just said you're old, and then that would mean I am, and that's just not how it
By
is.
association, now that equates you with being old. But, I'm just saying, like, this is how dated it is. How about that? But I wanted to find a church that felt, like churches on Long Island, at least at that time, were a little bit different, not like I was used to in the Bible Beltway of Virginia or Ohio, which I was at school. I mean, there's churches everywhere, like
Yeah.
non-denominational,
Yeah, yeah.
contemporary churches, all of that. Every church, so I kept bumping up into churches, was like, I don't feel like
Like at home.
I don't feel at home. And, I looked in the phone book for churches. Yeah, I've told you, this is how dated it is. I looked in the
That's
phone book and
okay.
the yellow pages under churches, and there it was, Shelter Rock Church, Manhasset. I was like, "Okay." I lived in Oyster Bay. It was a 30-minute drive.
I can't believe you brought up the phone book.
I'm that's how I found the church. It wasn't on a website or anything. I found it in the phone book. I told you.
Yeah,
That's how dated and
yeah,
old.
man. Okay.
So yeah, I went to it was only Manhasset campus, so I drove the 30 minutes there. I walked in the first song, and I was like, "This is home. This is it." And so my nanny, the year I was a nanny, I went to Manhasset campus. And then the summer of that year, we were offered the opportunity to merge with Bible Baptist Church, which is our current Syosset campus.
Yes.
So, yeah, I was in the part of the process of launching that campus as a volunteer. Steve Tomlinson, who's our former senior pastor, he it was only Manhasset at that point, and so he through whoever conversations or I don't know whatnot, he cornered me one Sunday and he was like, "I heard you had a degree in education. Do you want to help us with our kids in Syosset when we launch this campus?" And I was like, I guess I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, helped with that, with pulling out pews in the Bible Baptist Church, pulling out pews and
It's funny how God like weaves the story together because you were saying like you're only in the gym with like one person and it was a God incident and it led
yeah,
you here
yeah,
and then you're on in the phone book, you see Shelter Rock, like it's just like almost like God is just writing the
mm-hmm,
story for you.
mm-hmm.
And then isn't that how you met your husband too?
It is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so, I didn't meet my husband in the phone book, is that what you
No,
mean?
no.
Oh. I just circle.
I can't with you. At the opening of Sayas.
Oh, not at the actual grand opening of Syosset,
Where
no.
was
It
it?
was, so we had the old campus that we
Yes.
fixed up for Shelter Rock, and then, then at the end of my nanny year, the campus, I mean, I loved being a part of ministry and what was happening here, but I didn't wanna be a nanny anymore, please, no. And so I ended that, and I really had every plan to move anywhere outside of New York that I could, like, get me away from New York, no offense, I just wanted to go back to where felt home.
What about New York, the
I don't
fast
know.
pace? But you're on Long
Maybe.
Island. I mean,
Maybe the fast pace, but honestly, it just came down to it
not
didn't
everybody says hello. Like, I don't know.
Actually, New Yorkers are nicer than we would give them credit for.
I mean, I have to tell you, when I went down south and people were saying hello, I felt awkward. I'm like, why is this person like I immediately judge them. I'm like,
You're like,
why are you
"You
saying hello
don't.
to me?
What are you trying to sell me?" Yeah. But, so I tried to go anywhere else but New York, and it didn't happen, and that's when God opened a door for me to work part-time at the church here, doing admin work in Manhasset.
Mm.
Admin work in Manhasset. I coach soccer
So there's your
for kids,
ministry and your sports
right? Yeah,
together,
and I
utilizing your degree.
look at that, my parents, so all that money. And I yeah, and I lived in the basement of someone's church, someone's house, gosh, who went to the church. I lived in the basement of someone's house, yeah, who went to the church and was a part of the Manhasset campus. So that's how was my first, like my first year in ministry,
Wow.
piecing it together. And then I served here on the Syosset campus, leading the kids program as a volunteer. My paid work was soccer and admin work in the office. and then was involved, in, I think we had like 15 kids, and shout out to Faith D'Antona,
Oh, she's the
one of my
best.
OGs, but,
You've known Faith for how long? Like,
a long time,
wow.
since she was like 4 or 5. But, yeah, did that and enjoyed it and loved it, and the current, the current kids director at the church really just focused on Manhasset, and then I handled Syosset, as a volunteer because it wasn't that many. But then she decided she wanted to go back to nursing, which is what her profession was. So she was paid part-time at the church, and so now there was a vacancy as well. So Steve Tomlinson offered me that position pieced
Okay.
together with my admin
Yes.
job, which made it full-time job, like a
Yeah.
combination of things. And yeah, so that was my next step into ministry. Or that's my official full-time ministry.
Yeah. So, you were saying you came from a conservative background and you never thought of, being a pastor. Like you didn't think that would be in the cards. Like obviously, women, have a lot of importance in the kingdom of God. They're equal, but different in role. So when you look at like the Bible and you think of the Old Testament, you have like the Deborahs and the Ruths, and
Mhm.
you have in the New Testament the Priscillas and the Phoebes, and you see that even when Jesus came back to and resurrected, he showed up to women first, which, if you were going to really, it really tells a story of the gospel being real,
Mm.
because like if you're really writing that story to be credible,
Mhm.
probably wouldn't have happened.
Mhm.
Um, so this is pretty big, like the fact that you're a woman pastor. How did that happen for
Mm.
you? Because given that you didn't think that was a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, it was a process for me as well, just because of, yeah, my upbringing. And so even at Shelter Rock, it wasn't on my radar for to even pursue that until, yeah, years into it, and really feeling a call, towards that.
Mhm.
And so then I went on my own journey. Like, what would what is the biblical view of women in ministry? And, um, yeah, I guess it takes me back to my college days too, like wanting to really discover it for myself. So, and 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 even to this day, like I don't want to do anything that's contrary to scripture. Like
Right.
so it's I take it very seriously, and there's multiple views on what does this look like, and I respect all of them, because I think you can equally
Make a case, I
you could make
guess,
a case, yeah,
of
and
it.
I respect that, and Pastor Nathan has what we call, like the bullseye and things that as you continue to go out, and this is one of those on the outer rings for it, that we can have, differing views for it that both are equally based in scripture. And I think the calling, even from a young age, that, um, I think I come alive though in involving, in this level of involvement in ministry, and I couldn't see myself doing anything else, nor just from my personal conviction and discovery through scripture, feel I don't perceive it to be any other way for God's kingdom either,
Wow.
to exclude to exclude a whole side of his creation from actively involvement in ministry to this level. And so I yeah, it's a privilege.
So you sensed a calling from God to do this. So what was the pathway there to
To a
become?
pastor? Oh,
Yeah.
sure. I keep referencing Steve Tomlinson because that's who I've mostly, yeah, been a part of with in ministry at church at Shelter Rock. But yeah, he challenged me and said that this is something you want to do, then then let's put you on the path for it. So I went to seminary, Bethel Seminary in St. Paul, Minnesota, completed a degree there in seminary, as well as mentors and, yeah, trying and then there was, yeah, I graduated, and
Were there any like Titus talks about the older women teaching the younger women. Were there any women that were influential in your life? I know Steve obviously was a big part of this pathway, but like, were there any other champions for you to help you out in making these type of decisions or?
Um, in this, like, towards being a pastor?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Hmm.
No. It honestly was a what's the word?
It's almost like you like led the, I don't know, like you almost
It
trailblazed,
was a
like
big
a
thing for our
trailblazed.
church because
Yeah.
it never
It
not
never
that
existed.
no, yeah, it had never existed before. So our church went through a whole process of it to kind of help lead all of us through
Yeah.
what does it look like. And I mean that was a decade ago, which if you're part of Shelter Rock now, it's not you don't think twice I don't think you think twice about it
No.
unless you step into the space and you're like, "Oh, I've never encountered that before." And many a times within the church, at least we found, is that people maybe have never encountered it before, but didn't know why.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it just gave opportunity to again just walk with people through it and say we equally can respect both ways, but we do believe that this is what we see in scripture and how to
Yeah.
interpret it. Um,
You have like unique challenges, but also unique opportunities because I know in my life, you've been such a key role. You know, sometimes you can't talk to a male pastor about certain things, and it was it was more comforting to me to come to you and having that relationship. So, you know, for me, it was instrumental in my faith journey to have someone to go to that was like me, you know? And so we are called to be leaders in the church as women, and then I think of like even Galatians that talks about in 3:28, there is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. So if you belong to Christ, then you're a part of Abraham's seed, and we're called co-heirs according to his promise. So yeah, and you know, I pray for you all the time because I know you're in a unique position. I'm sure it's very weighty, but I thank you for you know, answering God's call in your life, that you felt a sense of him to kind of do this because I do think it's, you know, it's an important role and we hope to see more people that can do what you're doing. So,
yeah, and I wanted to be able to give voice, I think, to to opportunities that maybe women have never perceived before, and having a deep passion for teaching or leading, and um, for whatever reason, it just seems as if it's off the table.
yeah.
And I think yeah, just in being able to to speak and encourage, to meet with people, God created male and female, you know, and how they complement each other and how they work alongside of each other. And like you said, I bring things to the table that not necessarily, and vice versa, you know? So I think it gives such a greater perspective of who God is when we involve men and women, you know, in the
Yeah.
process.
I
So,
mean, you have a daughter and, you know, there's tons of women, young women in the church as well. If you could give advice to a girl or, you know, a woman watching this podcast and says, you know, I feel that same exact call, what kind of advice would you give that person
a call like for
for it to
pastoral
be, yeah,
ministry or ministry and
in general or
uh
pastoral?
what would I tell them? First, I would tell them make sure it's their personal conviction. You know, like you can't fully step into it if you don't believe that this is something that's for lack of a better word permissible, I guess is
Yeah,
what you should
yeah,
say. Um because you have to be able to serve and lead from conviction. And if you feel as if you're in violation, then it's really going to trip you up. So I think it's that would I would say that's your first step. And if that's something in which agreement, then I would also then like do your best to take whatever steps you can because it is a man's world, you
yeah,
know, and I think, and I actually still struggle with it some too, and that I feel as if I have to prove myself to be at the table,
yeah,
and I mean, part of it is just me because Pastor Henry, all of the people I serve with, they're fully engaged with me there. But I think it's always me trying to prove I deserve to be here,
Hmm.
whether that's in the meetings or in preaching or wherever it might be. Um, yeah, I think it's just so I say that because do your part, as in go to seminary, go to school, don't just represent the typical. And I mean, we're women, so we can talk about ourselves like this. Like,
Yeah.
don't ever try this if you're a man. But if we just bring like, and we're known for just, oh, we're just all heart. We're just all heart, and we just bring the warm and
And
fuzzies
the
and the
sensitivities,
sensitivity, and we're gonna the tears and all. Like that's
that's our like
yeah. And
little
then
corner.
yeah, like that's our area, and then anything that's logical or depth and all of that, that's the man's world. So, I don't think it doesn't have to be
One or
divided
the
like
other,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And so I say do your part in knowing what you're studying and knowing what you're bringing to the table and all of that. So, like, be so that you can be a voice to speak into it, because you will bring a different perspective, um, to the table. But if you can't keep up, then
Well, that's where
then you're
your
gonna miss the
relationship, your
opportunity.
personal relationship with the Lord is so important. I think to build that confidence and that boldness in you. So what are some of like your own rhythms to keep you kind of Christ-centered so that you don't get affected maybe by the positive or negative commentary, but to kind of stay grounded in what he wants you to do
Positive and negative commentary of.
of your role in
Oh,
ministry.
oh, oh,
Yeah.
sure. What do I do to stay grounded? Yeah, I think I've grown over the years because it really got to me before of people's opinions or
Yeah.
questions or anything like that. And I mean, I still get it now. Someone could be new to the church and it's like, oh,
There's a woman
woman
pastor.
pastor. Like I've
Or
had people
there's a
say it.
woman
Yeah, yeah.
pastor.
I always like jokingly say when I'm at a campus and I'm preaching that day, and I meet someone for the first, like they're coming to into the doors and like, oh, we're the first ones here, and I'm at the welcome area or whatever, and I'm thinking, well, I'm about to either ruin your day or
Yeah.
hopefully pleasantly surprise you,
Yeah.
because it's not what's expected when you walk. It's just traditionally not expected, and but our church is so gracious and supportive, and I think that we've genuinely embraced the beauty of what it is for men and women to equally work alongside of each other, and appreciate what each one brings to the table. And yeah, Shelter Rock is wonderful like that.
Yeah, I can't imagine being in your shoes, but I know that you're obviously, you know, creating a path for others to maybe follow along. So, yeah, so being rooted in Christ and keeping your eyes on Christ is definitely,
Yeah, and I think serving, like I said earlier, serving from conviction, knowing
yes,
that this is
this is what you were
what's
called to
God's,
do.
because you can insert that argument into any area of life.
Yeah,
You don't feel confident as a teacher, or you don't feel confident as, because people could say equally to you, well, you're not X, Y, and Z, or what, or doctor, or
whatever.
what, fill
Lawyer.
in the yeah, fill in the blank, whatever it could be. And I think you honestly have to work and serve from a place of, this is where God has put me and called me, no matter what it is, pastor,
Yeah,
teacher, lawyer, police officer, any of that.
yeah,
So you want to be in a place where you can say, I'm truly living and following in obedience to what God has put in front of me. And this is what he's put in front of me. And I actually have, and I've only taken steps. I have not, trust me, I this was not anything that
would have thought
would
of.
have thought of. No, but it's and I always want to have the posture of saying yes.
Mm,
Like always having the posture of saying yes to Jesus, whether it's, because it's not easy. Like it's not easy. No, and you can put yourself in any of those blanks,
yeah,
whatever it is. But I want to always have the posture to say yes. And sometimes that's just knowing one step at a time. Like we want to rush ahead and know the 5-step plan, but I have found it to be that it's really just saying yes to Jesus is one step, sometimes even a half step. Your left foot, not even the right
yeah,
one up next to it. So
yeah.
it's just following that way. And Really, beyond that, I don't know any other way to stay rooted because I think anything else will come and go. I could say, "Oh, it's making sure I," and these are all valuable things, true, like emotionally healthy, emotionally healthy, physically healthy, spiritually, all of those things I think are in there as well, but those 2, like this conviction and really saying yes to Jesus wherever he takes us. I mean, he could tomorrow take me somewhere else,
Right.
and it would be equally as hard. So I think it's just following in obedience, yeah.
So if you can go back to Virginia to little Leslie and tell her something, what would you say to her, knowing where God has taken you?
Oh gosh. Um, I honestly I don't know. I don't know what I would say to little Leslie. Um,
God had some big shoes for you to fill.
yeah,
And he's still writing your story.
he's still
So
writing.
you
He's still
have
writing your
you're
story.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're a young mom, you have 2 beautiful
I
children.
like how you put young in
Um
there.
well, 2 beautiful kids, Kate and Sam, and your husband, and he had this whole life for you, you know? So what do you do for fun
What do I do for
outside? Yeah,
fun?
because you have to juggle being a woman in ministry, being a mom, being a wife. So what
Mhm.
do you do to kind of
What
have
do I
some
do for
fun?
fun? I
You do a pickup game.
a pickup basketball game.
Buffalino versus the Stoles. Basketball.
That would be fun. That would be fun. For fun, yeah, I mean, outside I love being with my family, my kids. I do enjoy, although it gets harder as you get older. I enjoy running, but I have found that road running has ruined my body. So I'm on
Mm.
treadmill running right now. So I do enjoy that.
I've seen you sometimes, like, on the
Yeah.
streets running.
Yeah, not anymore. Apparently I have thrown off my hips
Oh,
in,
boy.
in road running. So I am onto flat surfaces. Um, and yeah, enjoying running and hanging out with my family. I'm a pretty simple person.
Yeah,
There's nothing elaborate. I do enjoy the beach during the summer. My kids are starting to love it as much as I do, and I hope they will continue to love it. But I want to go to the beach by myself, so I'm not responsible for anybody and just sit there.
and just
I
chill.
wouldn't really say that's a hobby though.
Yeah, I
It's a
mean,
pastime.
it's one of my pastimes. I love going to the beach, get a book,
Yeah.
chill out.
Mhm.
Well, if you would answer your text messages, maybe we could do that more often.
Maybe. Thank you.
Well, anyway, thank you, Pastor Leslie, for having this conversation tonight. I
Yeah.
hope that it encourages someone out there, maybe a little girl, maybe, I could just see Kate being so proud of her mom.
Mm.
So I know that you've been instrumental in my life, and I just thank you for the work that you're doing for the Lord, and I just pray blessing over you and your family, and I just thank you.
Thank you.
Well, come back for the next Meet the Pastor. You'll never know who's in the hot seat next.
Because
Thank
you
you.
don't.